I just do note that we're under a slight bit of time pressure, so I'm going to ask the next two speakers if they could hack back maybe by 5 minutes each, and then what we'll be able to do is retain more time for the discussion. We're going to have two examples now of what's happening out there. I'm not going to do long-winded introductions. I'm just going to say Mike Barry is from Marks & Spencer's, and he's up next.
Right. Simple. 5 minutes about how to extract value from climate change. I'm going to put to one side all the pleasantries, all the history of M&S and everything. I'm just going to get stuck in. To put any context on how Marks & Spencer is taking value out of working on climate change, let me just explain what our carbon footprint is. 700,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions from what Marks & Spencer physically owns. 600 stores in the UK, 20 stores here in the Republic, 300 stores elsewhere in the world. So 700,000 tonnes is a fairly big number. We've got to reduce that, and I'll explain that in a moment. But that number is dwarfed by what happens in our supply chain. 4 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent from 2,000 factories, 20,000 farms, thousands of raw material sources, cotton fields, forests, etc., all of which are driving carbon emissions. 4 million tonnes in that supply chain. And then the other direction, the consumer's home. 21 million people shop M&S every week. 350 million garments we sell every year, 2 billion items of food. They drive a carbon footprint in our consumer's home of about 2 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent. Put all that together, M&S's total value chain footprint, 7 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent. Is that a big number? Is it a small number? It's equivalent to 1% of all the emissions from the UK economy, 10% of all the emissions from the Irish economy. So one little shopkeeper is driving a fairly significant footprint. Now, you can stand there and think, oh my goodness, what do I do? Head in the sand, hope it all goes away. It ain't. You can panic and start throwing walls of money at trying to control this footprint, and you'll waste a lot of money. Or you can do what we've tried to do, and I hope I can demonstrate in the next 4 minutes how we've done properly, is you can start to extract value from it. So let's explain why. There are 5 basic business drivers by which we believe we can extract value from carbon, or managing carbon well. First is the consumer. There's 21 million people. 80% of them are telling us they want Marks & Spencer to take a lead in this area. They're not bouncing up and down downstairs saying, we're going to pay lots of money for lots of green products. What they're saying in their own tentative way is, these issues are beginning to scare us, and we want you, a big business, particularly at the back end of a very difficult recession, to take a lead and show us how to do it. So I've got 80% of my customer base in some shape or form saying, what do I do? Come on, big M&S, help me. So what we started to do is give people simple solutions to tackle climate change in the home. We're encouraging people to wash their clothing at 30 degrees rather than 40 degrees or higher. You can have huge carbon savings and money savings in the home from doing the right thing. We're starting to build a tribe amongst our consumers where they can stand up to pledges and say, you know, I want to stand up and say Copenhagen matters. We're launching something this week that's going to enable people to collectively have a voice rather than feeling individuals. Over the next 10 years, that consumer interest will only multiply and grow. It will go down a non-linear journey. There'll be mistakes, there'll be problems, there'll be people desperate for it, desperate against it. But consumers, by and large, will be driving you as a business to want to do more on carbon. You have to take a lead in that space. The second area is efficiency, or let's be brutal, money. When we launched Plan A, our sustainability plan, 2.5 years ago, we said we'd spend £200 million over 5 years tackling 100 things to do with sustainability, 29 on climate. £200 million cost. It didn't seem too bad when we're making £1 billion a year profit. Now we're making 620 million. So suddenly that 200 million seems a little bit intimidating. And yet 2.5 years into Plan A, Plan A has already gone past cost neutral. Every tens of millions we invest in more sustainable business practice is offset by tens of millions of saving. Less energy, less water, less waste, less packaging. It saves you money. We believe that's just the tip of the iceberg. Across the M&S value chain, about the money we spend running our business and buying stuff from our supply chain, there are tens, if not hundreds of millions of pounds of cost savings to be extracted over the next decade by driving a sustainability agenda. Motivation is the third thing. Our people, 75,000 employees in total, let's say 3,000 here in Ireland. They want to believe. They want to be part of a change, a business that's doing something positive. I looked at a little survey out in the States this week. It said trust between the employee and the employer has collapsed. 79% of employees in America used to say, I trust my business. It's down to 30% now. I believe that sustainability is at the heart of driving a different kind of relationship with our workforces in the future. The fourth driver, innovation. What we sell today, Marks & Spencer, ready meals, dresses, what we'll be selling in 10 years' time could well be radically different. In fact, I do believe it will be radically different, not incrementally so. So what's Marks & Spencer done to extract value there? We've launched M&S Energy in the UK. Marks & Spencer is selling energy. 6,000 new accounts being created every week as people come to us for a service proposition, a price proposition, and a sustainability one, because we incentivize people to use less energy. We will give you an incentive at the end of the year. If you cut your energy bill by 10%, we'll give you a reward. And the fifth driver for us, resilience. We're already starting to see the impacts of climate change on our extended value chain across the world. Stores that are more susceptible to flooding. We saw it in the UK. Several stores we thought would never be flooded in the sort of heavy rainfall we had 2 or 3 years ago were underwater. We've seen it in our supply chain in places like Spain, in Kenya, in China, in India, where climate change is beginning to affect what you buy and how you buy it. We're starting to work with farmers to actually help buy energy from them. All that waste they've got on fat farms, you turn it into green energy through anaerobic digestion. You can put windmills up in farms in Scotland, very windy. Micro-hydro. You give farming base a lead. You create resilience there, a new income for farmers. We get the green electricity we want at the price we want it. We're working with manufacturers to create green eco-factories where we're showcasing the very best technology of the future. I want those before my competitors get them. So we're working with suppliers to showcase and test those. So those are just 5 little examples of extracting value from carbon. I'll conclude, because I wanted 15, but I've got 5. But let me conclude by just saying, the low-carbon economy is upon us. The recession is an amazing comfort blanket to sit there and think, you know what, I'll just put it off another couple of years. The science of climate change is uncertain. I'll put it off for another couple of years. For you as business leaders, the train is leaving the station. People are already starting to test the new products and services they will be extracting value from over the next 5 to 10 years. You can't turn around in 2018 and say, you know what, it's upon us. I'm going to develop a new business model now, just turn a tap on. It doesn't happen like that. You need to start testing and probing now. Measure your footprint. You've got to measure that carbon footprint. I've talked about 7 million tonnes, but you know what? There's 3 things in it that dominate M&S footprint. Across thousands of farms, factories, stores, millions of consumers' homes. It's about farming, it's about refrigeration, it's about wash temperature for clothing. 35,000 product lines. I could go insane putting a carbon label on all of them, or I could tackle those 3 things and make a real difference. It's about standing up and be counted. You guys are managing your businesses through one of the worst recessions this planet has ever known. And yet you've given up 2 hours of precious time to be here to stand up and be counted. We need more of that going forward. There needs to be a collective voice about driving change. And that will deliver us the policy framework that we need for the future. If we sit back and just say, oh, leave it to government, leave it to others, we'll end up with a policy framework that doesn't suit us and does not help us create value. And my final point, create a plan. It's what you do every day of your lives to run your businesses, to grow them into the future. You have a plan. Carbon is no different from that. It's not about philanthropy. It's not about being a responsible citizen and a bit of policy negotiation with a few NGOs. It's about building a value, creating a value-driving plan for your business. That's all M&S has done with Plan A and its sustainability plan. So let me conclude by a quick observation about Ireland. I travel, I meet lots and lots of people, lots of companies, I meet lots of governments around the world. And what's intrigued me most of all is about the potential for countries like Ireland to make a real difference. I talk a lot with people in New Zealand, how New Zealand is trying to position itself as brand sustainable. Across its food industry and all the other industries it's got, it will be the green option. And I think there's an incredible opportunity for this nation to build a high-tech, green farming base, green food base, people solutions. Because people are at the heart of sustainability. It's not just about putting technology and widgets on top of buildings. It's about people wanting to change. And I think the Irish economy can extract value from that in the way that Marks & Spencer is. Thank you very much.
Mike Barry, thanks very much for a great speech and done within the time. It puts tremendous pressure on our next speaker, I have to say. His name is Pádraig McManus of the ESB. Pádraig.